So I mentioned to you earlier that I talked about this meal timing with a collaborator of yours, Dr. Sachin Panda, who's at the Salk Institute. And a lot of his research had focused on elucidating this important regulator of the peripheral clocks, meaning the clocks in the non-brain, so the liver, the heart,
pancreas,
right, and how when you eat your first meal or even taking your first non-water beverage starts that clock. And so if you start that clock, let's say you wake up at 7:30 in the morning and you have a sip of coffee, 7:30 in the morning, the clock starts. And he's shown that eating all your meals within at least a 12-hour time from that, when that clock starts, seems to be very important for having a good metabolic health, good glucose regulation, good insulin sensitivity, being able to maintain lean muscle mass and keep fat loss off. But what's really in my mind, I was trying to understand, and like you mentioned, we don't know all the molecular mechanisms between the timing of the two, both the master clock and the peripheral clock, but how they do seem to be working together. So, let's say someone fasts in the morning. They don't eat breakfast, they don't eat lunch. And then so they're fasting, let's say they're fasting for 12 hours, and then they eat a meal right before bed.
Right.
We don't know if that's necessarily going to be as good as fasting during the evening when you're in sync.
We totally don't think it's as good. So our research seems to show that two things. One, we see our biggest reductions in breast cancer, for instance, recurrence, with at least 13 hours of fast. And we really believe that fast needs to start around 7, maybe to 8 p.m. at night. When people talk about breakfast, what I often say is, when you're talking to people who skip breakfast, I think skipping breakfast is actually a marker of eating at night. Because if you stop eating early in the evening and don't eat for 13 hours, when you wake up, you're starving. You don't skip breakfast. So a lot of times I think the research showing that not eating breakfast or skipping breakfast is bad is actually not studying breakfast. It's the people who skip breakfast were eating late into the night. So we think it's both. It's that we need a long stretch of time, and there might be some improvements in gut rest or the microbiome. We don't think that your GI tract also was meant to have food constantly in there, So we think that it's important to have a long stretch of gut rest, but that gut rest happens at night, starting fairly early, 7 or 8 p.m., and then 13 hours after that. So it's both of those things, and either one is not sufficient.
Right. And the microbes in your gut are also on that circadian rhythm.
Absolutely. Yes, the GI tract is very, very tied to circadian controls.
Right.